Welcome to the Charleston Marketing Podcast, powered by the Charleston American Marketing Association and broadcasting from our home at Charleston Radio Group. Thanks to CRG, we're able to talk with the movers and shakers of Charleston, from economy to art, from hospitality to tech, and everything in between. These leaders have made a home here in the Lowcountry. They live here, they work here, they make change here. Why? Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome to the Charleston Marketing Podcast, powered by the Charleston American Marketing Association. We're here recording in the Charleston Radio Group studios, big supporters of CAMA. Got to give a shout out to Charleston's favorite DJ Jerry Feels Good, with the beats at the beginning. Thanks to all our supporters. Mike Compton here, co-founder and president of Roombo, GoRoombo.com, and your incoming president for the Charleston American Marketing Association. I'm here with a guest co-host. What's up, Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie Blomquist. I'm the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Going Places, and I am the communications director on the American Marketing Association board here in Charleston.
Yes. Katie, I'm going to let you do the honors of just saying hello to the guests today and kind of like getting a little... Who do we have here today?
Today we have my dad,
Hey.
Tom Blomquist.
Don't hold that against me.
The king, as we like to call him in our home.
Oh, is that right?
It's an old inside family joke.
Say family joke.
We'll dive into that later. I can't wait, Tom.
King of big screen.
Yes.
Big screen.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
I'm excited I get to be a guest special co-host for this. So
Yeah, you're gonna do great, Katie. And so just to kind of make Tom feel even more awkward, we're gonna read a little bit of his bio. I could not read his bio. Tom is an award-winning screenwriter, producer, and director who has been associated with some of the nation's most popular television dramas, including. Now, some of us might have to Google these things, okay, because they're a little bit older. But
Right.
I'm familiar with a lot of them. Catherine Marshall's Christie, right? Walker, Texas Ranger. Everybody knows about Walker, Texas. The A-Team. Pause for drama there.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to hear some stories about the A-Team. Hunter, Riptide, Swamp Thing, Farscape, Werewolf, In a Heartbeat, Fame, L.A., and Hardcastle and McCormick. Oh my gosh, Tom, what is going on? And serving as consulting producer for the feature film Blood Pageant, starring Snoop D-O-double-G. In addition to his work in television, Blomquist has published 3 books, the novels Silent Partners and Devious Thinking, and the textbook Eye of the Storm. I can go on and on and on of the storm here, Tom. You're also an educator. You taught screenwriting at the American Film Institute, University of South California, Chapman University, UCLA Writers Program. Dear Lord, where do we even start to open up the onion of Tom Blomquist?
Why can't he keep one job?
What in the
What
world?
is wrong with this guy?
And then he's got all of the other different stuff that he's worked on because you can't remember them all, for crying out loud. There's so much stuff, Tom.
why don't we start with how it started?
Oh, that's
Let's start at the beginning.
As the daughter asks.
How did it start?
Well,
What did you go to school? Where were you from?
I'm from Mount Prospect, Illinois, northwest suburb of Chicago.
Okay, Midwest. Love it.
Near the Arlington Racetrack, the old Arlington Racetrack, if anybody knows that area. That was a landmark. And it all started, I was interested in theater as a kid.
Okay.
Learned very quickly.
In high school, did you?
Yeah, high schools and plays, which we learned quickly
Okay.
that Tom should not be performing.
He's a behind-the-scenes guy.
Sure, well,
he
you gotta
belongs
find that
behind
out.
the scenes. But it was really fun, and I was also, I was writing all the time, and I didn't even realize.
What do you mean you were writing all the time? As a high school kid?
Yeah, I
you
was
just
like in the
writing
high
all
school
time?
paper, and
Okay, so you
wrote sports articles, and I was a drummer in a band, a popular local rock group, and
Awesome.
wrote articles about music and the genesis of rock and roll and all that, and so all of that. I've described it to people. It's like this all comes from the same place. It's the same itch you're trying to scratch in life, which is telling stories, entertaining people, and I didn't even realize you could be a writer. Where we grew up in this middle class suburb.
Sure.
If somebody said, "Well, I'm going to move to Hollywood and be a TV writer. They think you're nuts.
And
it wasn't even on the
especially-
menu. You
well-
know, it wasn't an option.
What decade are we into, right? Like, what year is this?
The 60s.
The 60s. So
60s.
especially in the 60s.
Yeah, I graduated
that
from high
wasn't-
school in '68.
You
so
were a rebel.
I was
back
a
in the
rebel.
day.
Yeah,
But-
back then you stayed where you grew up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you stayed in kind of the same general vicinity.
At least our
Exactly.
in our kind of microculture of a family and everything. And so but I was always the kid in the accelerated English class, you know, the fast track thing, and because it was easy and fun. I
Uh-huh.
didn't, you know, some guys were like into math, and it was like they could ace it, and I couldn't figure out algebra or geometry to
Same.
save my life.
Yes.
So, but this was it was natural
Uh-huh.
and was fun. And you know, when I went to college, I went to Southern Illinois University because they had a really good radio TV program,
Mhm.
one of the top 5 in the country in those days, and they had an awesome school of music. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I thought maybe I wanted to be a professional musician. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of you kind of channel into the things that fit. you
Yeah.
know, and so I'd be in a class and in the TV department, and we're supposed to do a project.
Yeah.
And instead of going to the library and finding something, I said, well, I'll just write it. It's a lot easier, and I don't have to leave. You know, and so somewhere along the line. In those days, I thought I wanted to be a TV director, you know, like do the news or local.
Okay, so
talk
you had a
shows.
clue. You were clued in there. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. And then a different dream emerged, which was I thought I wanted to produce TV commercials. I thought, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
great to, you know, do these 20-second, 30-second, 60-second spots
Stories.
in those days,
Yeah.
and of course sell people products they don't really need, all of that,
That's
which
fine.
but huge budgets, and I thought, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
So I started looking for what my job would be when I graduated, because my classmates or the people right ahead of us, I could see where they were going. They were all going to TV stations around the Midwest and getting good jobs as producer directors and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want to do that. I got to be an ad agency. So I started writing letters to ad agencies all over the world.
Okay.
Here's who I am. Here's what I'm studying.
Uh-huh.
I know you have to recruit people. You do recruit people.
Yeah.
You know, from time to time on
Yeah.
big campuses. What do I have to do to be one of those guys? You know, and I went to the library and looked up all of the. That's before the internet.
Uh-huh.
Remember libraries?
Yeah.
Big building full
Yeah,
of books.
right.
Okay, so I would look up who's the production manager, head of production for this agency, and I was writing letters, and a couple of them wrote me back, and ultimately one of those turned into a job at Foot Cone and Belding in Chicago.
How many did you have to send?
80.
You sent 80?
80 on the typewriter.
80 letters.
Hand typed.
Hand typed.
Yeah, customized letters. Because I would try to reference products that they had or whatever. In each
Sure.
letter.
Did a little research.
Just so they didn't think I was a complete goofball. And a couple of them did respond. Most of them just toss it. But ultimately, this was my sophomore year of college. So
Okay.
I got 3 years ahead of me. How do I get a job when I graduate? That was
Right.
the whole goal.
Yeah, yeah.
And this one guy at Foot Cone and Belding, Bill Heyer, I don't know, he was amused something about who's this audacious kid writing letters, you know, at 19 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Come work at one of the top 5 agencies in the world.
Uh-huh.
But he said, I know the school you're going to, and stay in touch. So I did. I call him once in a while. I never did meet him, by the way, but we corresponded by snail mail. And my senior year, I thought, okay, you know, I'm going for the big score now. I hope I've lined up a job. And he
Uh-huh.
said, well, I got good news and bad news. The good news is, the bad news is I'm retiring, and I'll be out of here in a couple of weeks. But the good news is I've given your file to my successor,
Yeah.
Dwayne Bogey, who we'll be expecting to hear from you. And I'm thinking, I got a file. There's a file with my name on it. This
Yeah.
is SCORE.
Right.
But I was also devastated that
Who-
I've spent 3 years on this guy.
This guy.
and
Who's Bogey? Right.
who's this guy?
Yeah.
So I called, and long story short, he said his secretary, Kathy Lonergan, said, yeah, Mr. Bogey would be happy to see you when you're in. It was in the Chicago office. So when you're home for Christmas, you know, come and see him.
Nice.
And I went in at 9 in the morning with my suit and tie and everything. And she said, here's your schedule for the day. The day? I thought I was just meeting him. He had me scheduled to meet all these top executives at the agency.
Oh, my gosh.
And she said, he'll see you at the end of the day.
Is that typical of how they interviewed back then?
Well,
Because
it ought to be how everybody interviews,
yeah.
because instead of going to some HR computer thing, some computer program that
Right.
pre-screens you, this was all done.
But you didn't have any of that.
I don't know.
No, you had to meet you had to meet each people or each person, each level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And Dwayne was the
100%.
head of the Hallmark greeting cards account, and he was also the executive producer of the Hallmark Hall of Fame drama series. And little did I know, I got the job, and
Oh, congratulations.
and it was awesome. But when I showed up for work, it wasn't to produce or be a junior producer. He was looking for a protege to train into becoming a producer of the Hallmark Hall of Fame movies.
What the heck?
And it's like lightning bolt, just zapped me. And whatever it was, to this day, and we became lifelong friends. And I couldn't tell you what he saw, except maybe some of him in me. I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, that's amazing.
But I was part of that group of people reading scripts that were being submitted for the 4 or 5 Hallmark movies every year.
Oh my gosh.
And
So
this
you're
is not the
romantic,
Hallmark
too.
Channel. This
Tom's
is the
romantic
Hallmark.
right now, isn't he?
This is not. This is not
Gotta
the
interview the
Hallmark.
wife next.
Well,
What's wife's
Funny
name?
enough, that's where he met my mom.
I met
was
her
at
there.
this job, so it really was meant to be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right. So, you'd be sued for pursuing somebody at work nowadays. But back then,
Back then,
everybody was dating
we're
everybody.
talking 70s,
And,
80s, right? It's
that's
free for
right.
all, Wild West.
So I got the bug for writing by reading all those scripts
Oh,
and all those
amazing.
books and talking about stuff, and realized I don't want to be the guy at the agency. I want to be the guy writing these.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote a bunch more letters, tried to transition to Los Angeles. I didn't even know what a writer really was. I didn't know what that meant. And I moved to LA.
Having never visited, he just moved, which
Yeah.
is
Well,
like,
no, I
you
went.
know-
I went out to visit a friend of mine who was a struggling actor. Slept on his couch for a couple of weeks and tried to have as many interviews as I could.
Yeah.
And one very important executive, Grant Tinker, who was Mary Tyler Moore's husband and ran their company, the Mary Tyler Moore Company.
Sweet.
He said, "Look, you're young, you're single. Quit your job, drive out here, dig in. I'll help you if I can."
Yeah.
So I went back. Everybody thought I was nuts. I was quitting a job I presumably could have had for life.
Really good job.
Really good job. And
20-some years old. How old are you?
I was 24.
Yeah, early.
and my mom went with him. She quit her job
She
there
crazy.
too, and
She
Yep.
came, a few months later, but yeah, she came out, and so now I'm out in LA.
What was she doing though? What is your mom? And what's her name?
Anne.
Hi, Anne.
She, I'm not sure she wanted that disclosed on
Uh-oh.
the show.
Uh-oh.
Her association with us
The
is
tens of people
is-
that listen
No,
to
my
us.
mom
are
was
gonna-
very lucky. We were very lucky. She was the stay-at-home mom, and my dad worked from
Yeah,
home, so it was really
sure.
great to have them both home all the time.
Uh-huh.
You know, come home from school and run out to the guest house where my dad's office was, and he'd take a break and chat about my day. And my mom did full-time charity work at Operation School Bell
Okay.
called Ann Banning, and
That's where she got the nonprofit bug.
the entrepreneur
Oh,
bug from
dear.
him, kind of
Yep.
combined them both.
Yep.
But so then after I graduated high school, she then worked in my high school, but waited a few years, after I left and
Sure.
went back to work because now I was gone. I was like, what am I going to do?
Right. But back then, what was she doing?
She was a
Hallmark?
secretary in the
Secretary.
account management area of the agency, and so I went out to LA and I was scratching around trying to find a job similar to the one I had, and
Yeah.
and came in second a couple of times.
Of
looking
course.
for
Of course.
an
You can't. I
executive.
mean,
And I was writing every day, every
Mhm.
night, trying to figure out how to do this, and it was bleak. I mean, I didn't know what it meant to learn your craft and
Right.
and compete at that level. I was just a kid. I didn't know.
yeah.
And apologies to any 24-year-olds out there. I was a kid. Maybe you were.
You're young
You're,
adults.
you're further along than I was. But
Young adults.
anyway,
Not really.
but I spent every dime I had.
Yeah.
I was living in a $105 a month apartment with no kitchen.
Right.
Just a
And
hot plate, right?
What was it?
I had a hot plate and a mini fridge
And a girlfriend?
well, she was in Chicago.
So she didn't come
But
back
she
yet.
came there.
Eventually, later.
Yeah.
But one of the compelling stories about what happened to me and that moved me forward.
Uh-huh.
You know, we were talking earlier before the show about, you know, wanting to do something and then it didn't happen, or you open doors.
It's time,
A
yeah.
door opens, you jump through it.
Yeah.
Well, there were no doors opening,
Mm.
and I've spent all my money because I didn't want to get a day job because there were no answering machines or answering services even. So what if I miss a call
Exactly.
for a job? So you spent every dime I had. If my parents only knew how broke I was, you know, they would have come out. They thought I was nuts for leaving, and they would have dragged me back to Chicago.
Yes.
So I went to file for food stamps.
Oh dear. Okay.
And so I went to the Burbank, the Glendale, California food stamp office. And I was sitting there, you know, at my lowest point because I'd given up a great job and I was not getting any traction at all. What am I going to do? What am I going to spend all my money?
Did I do the right thing?
I don't
All
even
of the
think
questions.
you know this story.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there talking to this
All by yourself.
this
too, huh?
emotionless clerk,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
the food stamp clerk, this bureaucrat, and he was this really unpleasant little man, you know,
Okay.
and with a bad toupee. I remember that,
Okay.
and he was asking me the questions, you know, well, what are you doing? Are you working? And I said, well, I want to be a writer. He said, what? I said, yeah, I want to be a television writer. He
You
said,
need to get that.
oh, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm at my lowest point, right? I'm one life crisis from flinging myself off a freeway overpass, you know. And this guy says, "Oh, that's never going to happen." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I wanted to be a TV writer, and it didn't happen for me, and it's not going to happen for you."
Oh my gosh.
And he said, "Trust me on that." And at that moment, I said, "I'm never going to let this son of a bitch get under my skin."
Yeah, no kidding.
Pardon me, all
Uh-oh.
of you. But I said, I'm never going to be this little man. This
Yeah.
bitter, burned out, awful little man. I'm never going
Right.
to be that guy. And whatever happened to him is not going to get
It's
to
not
me.
your story.
And that propelled me from that point forward
Uh-huh.
through a lot of years of trial and error and victories and defeats to see my dream happen.
Sure.
Because this awful little man told me
Right.
that I was a failure before I even said, just get a job, you know, anywhere. You're never going to make this happen because it didn't happen for me. What I learned was, of course, Los Angeles is full of people
Oh,
who didn't have their
yeah,
dreams come true.
exactly.
And why they do and they don't for some people, I don't, you know, who knows?
Tom,
But it was crazy.
Tom, did you eat? Did you get your food stamps?
Yeah.
I got my food stamps.
All right. Okay.
And I lived on granola and scrambled eggs.
For
and
how long?
oatmeal.
For like weeks?
It was a year.
Oh my.
And then Grant Tinker, Mary Tyler Moore's husband,
Uh-huh.
called me and said, "You still out of work?" Well,
Oh.
he knew I was, and he had invited me when I came to Los Angeles. He said, "Listen, anytime you want to see Mary's show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show was the #1 sitcom on television,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and
It's
he said, anytime you want to come and watch Mary's show shoot, just call my assistant and she'll get you a pass." So I went every Friday night to watch the show shoot.
Smart.
And I'd see him up in the booth, and I'd kind of wave
Yep.
at him and let him
Get
know
some
I was still,
FaceTime.
little time, and I'd see him afterwards if I could get to him to
Sure.
thank him. And so he knew. And what I realized later was that he was watching me. Let's see
Uh-huh.
what this guy's made of.
Yeah.
Let's see how you want to come out to L.A. Okay, you came. You now what?
Put them through it.
Let's
for
see
a
what you
minute.
got, buddy.
Oh my gosh.
It got to the point where people that worked on the show, I think, thought I worked at the company because I was
yes,
there all the time.
That's the idea.
So Betty White was one of the stars of the shows. She passed away in the last couple of years. And
oh my gosh.
and her husband, Alan Ludden, who was the top game show
Okay.
host,
Okay.
Password, and some of those iconic shows,
Mhm.
he would always be standing off by the cameras watching his wife do her show.
Yeah.
And I'm standing next. Pretty soon, I'm not sitting in the audience anymore. I'm now standing on the floor with the
With
crew.
the crew.
With the
yeah.
crew. And just because what are you sitting there? Come on down here with us.
Yeah.
So I think all these people, you know, Mary, maybe even, all thought I worked there because I'm waving at Grant Tinker. So and Alan was so nice. And my parents came out to visit, not knowing that I was living on food stamps and I was sucking air.
Yeah.
And I remember they came over and I said, "Mom, Dad, I want you to meet Alan Ludden." They were like freaked out because he was the guy, the game show guy.
Uh-huh.
And he went, "Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Blomquist, your son, what a wonderful young man. We all think the world of him." I think he thought I worked there. It was hilarious, but he could not have been more gracious.
Perfect.
And then Betty, come on over here.
Shut
Tom's
the
parents are here
front
from
door.
Chicago, and everybody. It was so great. And
I don't think I knew that. That's great.
Oh,
That's
wonderful
funny.
story. And
So
I
everybody was in on it.
and I'm watching
Fake
these
it till you
top
make it. That's the true story.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
and they were just so welcoming. This all Ed Asner, all these people, they were just wonderful people
Yeah.
doing this cool show.
Yeah.
And I'm again being exposed to all this really great writing.
Yeah.
They're
Exactly.
the top writers in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
notoriously at that company. And so eventually Grant called and gave me a job, but it was in the drama area because he wanted to expand into dramatic series, and I had some background in that
With
from
the
the
Hall of
Hallmark
Fame.
thing.
Yeah, or Hallmark.
So he
yeah.
wasn't just doing a friend a favor type of thing.
Mhm.
It was like, I need a young guy, and Tom has that exact experience. He's been vetted because he was at Foot Cone Building on this Emmy-winning series, so
Mhm.
he may know something. And
Yeah.
I've seen what he's made of. He's coming every week, and he's punching real hard. And he's asked me for job references when he was a finalist or something. So I got a job there, and it was there helping develop some drama series. Lou Grant was a series that was a spinoff from Mary that I had small role in, kind of moving things through.
Cool.
But I got to know all the dramatic writers they made deals with.
Sure.
And these were the top of the top, guys. They had development deals with them, and I would read their stuff and meet with them and talk to them and show them my kind of pathetic early,
Mhm.
scratchings on paper, and that was really where I made a turn. I got to do this. I'm learning more and more, and found a writing workshop that one of those writers had been in when he was a young guy,
Yeah.
and that's where it all started. And then you've read all this list of shows, and you bounce from thing to thing.
Yeah.
Either as a freelance writer,
Uh-huh.
which Katie mentioned, I'd be working in the office we had at home. Sometimes
Gig working. Gig work, right?
Yeah,
Writing
yeah. In
gigs
those
and-
days, there was a lot of that available to writers.
Oh, okay. Was there?
And now the model, the business model is different. Now they tend to hire all their writers, and everybody's on staff, and they don't welcome freelance writers in. When I was producing series, in charge of shows later on, I loved having fresh ideas and voices come in. So about half the scripts would be written by the staff, me or a couple of the other writers that worked there. But I loved having these guys come in and pitching story ideas,
Yeah.
and bouncing ideas with them, and then have them go and do their take on the show.
Yes.
And then you might require an extra draft or two to get it
Sure.
exactly right for the show's kind of mandates. But you're going to get a kind of a level of writing, I think, that's not otherwise possible, because these guys don't live and breathe the show 24/7 like you do.
Mhm.
And they might just have an idea, a way to write a character or develop the series kind of arcs differently.
Mhm.
And so I loved that. And now, sadly, today I don't know how people get started, even because you can't really audition a script for them as a freelance writer. So I honestly have no idea how
Well,
they staff these shows up.
there's always snail mail. I mean, you wrote 80 letters.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah,
We could
no-
email.
Nobody's going to read those letters anymore. That's really sad.
Maybe it could be another
You'd
idea,
be like,
another
look at this
content
unique
idea.
form of communication.
Yeah.
It's all HR now. So
Yeah,
everything is HR,
exactly.
and you got to get through those layers of before you actually get to a human being that
Right.
might actually look into your soul and
Right.
see who you are and what makes you tick. And when you're staffing a TV show, if some new show, they do a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy or whatever,
Uh-huh.
they have writers that have been on staff before they move over, and then, but how does somebody today? I truly don't know. How does somebody say, well, here's my work?
Well, one guy we had on the show, and I'm looking at the podcast now, Ben Toll. Ben had a great story. Ben and his buddy rode the Atlantic Ocean.
Ben Toy.
Not Toll, Towil.
Oh.
Ben Toll. And he said if he had a mission and he had something that he wanted to do, you get it done. You like you went to the studio every Friday, you do that.
Yeah.
You make the emails, you write the letters. Like you and him are on like those type of people that are on a different level. There's nothing that can stop a type of person like you. If you have something in your head, you're gonna get it done. There's no barriers. If there's barriers, you just find a way around it. And I, what do you mean? It's interesting. It's right here on this list.
Well,
I mean, your work is amazing. So it
obsessive
shows.
compulsive comes to mind,
Well,
but
hardworking also comes to mind.
well, work ethic has a lot
Yeah.
to do with it, and
self-motivated.
Right.
I mean, that's a unique quality, especially these days.
Especially these days, and that's the kind of the.
ignorance is bliss.
I
Because
love
honestly,
that
I
too,
did not
100%.
realize
Yeah.
until I was in real deep
Right.
how hard it is
Yeah.
to get in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then how hard it is to stay in the business once you're in the business for
Correct.
a million reasons.
Correct.
And it's like a moving target in some respects, and you're blindfolded and you're shooting at a moving target. And if you hit it, you hit it, but you can hit it a second time, can you hit it a third time.
Right.
And there's some of that to this, and but obsessive compulsive does certainly come to mind.
Yeah. You gotta,
Because you know, it has some body blows. You
Uh-huh.
get your big break, and then the show is canceled.
right. You said
Now-
you had 2 of those before.
There were a couple of those, and along the way, there's shows that you really believe in. You think, you know, I really like this show. I'm not only am I thrilled to be working on it, but I would watch this as a civilian person just watching TV at home. And other times you're working on shows that are, you know, awful, and you know, you hate your life, you hate everything about it, but you're doing it because it's a job.
Yeah.
And you hate yourself for doing a job just for the money.
Right.
And because you're also trying to be creative and
Welcome to
make
our
it
world.
better,
Exactly.
you know, but that is it's show business.
Yeah.
You know, and there's more business than there is show sometimes, as they say.
Isn't that it?
And it's
Never thought of it like that. It's
Uh-huh.
so true.
but it's very true. And you meet some amazing people along the way. I was in this writing workshop when I was working at MTM.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to be a writer, and so Jim Burns, a great writer, one of my role models, you know, was reading my stuff, and I said, "How'd you learn to do this, Jim?" He said, "Well, I was in a writing workshop up Mulholland Drive." I said, "Well, is he still around?" "Yeah, he's there." I said, "Does he have a workshop now?" He said, "Well, I don't think so." I said, "Would you ask him if he would do it again?" And the guy said, "Yeah, if you can get 6 or 8 people together, come up to the house once a week." Never charged anybody.
Come
for it.
on. What do you mean?
His name was Robert Dennis. He was one of the original story editors on the original black and white Perry Mason series, the half-hour
gosh.
Perry Mason show.
Cool.
And just this veteran old guy. He wrote 500 episodes of television in his career, a couple of novels, and we would all throw in $10 so his wife could buy coffee and cookies, you know. But he never
Yeah.
charged us a dime. And you'd bring your stuff up, you know. He'd read it out loud, and he'd go, Mike.
Oh boy.
Try it again.
Yeah. Oh,
And that
jeez.
would be it. I mean, but out of that, if you're paying attention,
Yeah.
your professional standards start to take form.
Sure.
There were some people in that workshop that were better writers than me, just intuitively,
Mhm.
just organically. The stuff they brought in was really good.
You're gonna find somebody better than you in many
Yeah.
things, mostly, right?
Well, one guy I remember was a L.A. Fire Department paramedic,
Okay.
and he wanted to be a writer,
Uh-huh.
and he had some really good stuff. But Bob would give him negative feedback. We'd all read each other's
Everybody's
stuff, and he couldn't get past the fact that, well, but I wrote that. That's the way it is.
Yes.
And he fell away.
Well, maybe, I mean, part of the strategy of that is just preparing you for the rejection. If you can't, you know, when
Yeah.
you're
That
actually
too.
submitting to like get a job, or you
That
turn in a
too.
script and they're like, this isn't good. This isn't what, you know, you have
Yeah.
to be able to handle it.
But you also, you have to.
Cuts them out, weeds them out early.
Yeah, the worst thing you
It's
can
true.
do when you're trying to be a writer at certainly a professional level, anything more than a hobbyist, is you can't believe your friends and family when they tell you you're a genius. Oh my God, this is the best. They ought to make a movie out of this. This
Oh,
is
my.
great.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, it might be great.
Oh my.
Chances are it's not as great as they think it is, because you need informed
Yes.
eyeballs
Yes.
to critique it.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned my novels. I'm
Yeah.
editing my 3rd novel right now, and
Same.
I
No,
did.
I'm not.
I
Really.
got it. I got it to where I could get it,
Yeah.
but you lose objectivity. I have no objectivity anymore. What you have to step back from it.
Right.
So I sent it to 3 or 4 writer friends
Before
who are
you
also
went- yes,
novelists
I'm
and
sure.
screenwriters
Uh-huh.
in their past. And what do you think?
Right.
Tell me what's working. Tell me what's not working. Anything you want to say. You want to,
Notes. Yeah.
want to puke on it. Fine.
Don't care.
And out of that comes a kind of objectivity. Somebody says, "This section here, you had me, and then you lost me. I don't know what I lost my. Great, I can fix that.
Yeah.
I think you're missing a chapter. I think there's a piece missing here. And you go, of course. What an idiot. Why
Yeah.
didn't I see that? Well,
Yeah.
because you have no objectivity.
Right.
And to do this at a professional level, you have to be able to have somebody say, it's okay.
Right.
But maybe, or have somebody say, this is really working and you're firing on all cylinders. You need to hear that too, but it's got to come from somebody that knows really what they're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And like if one surgeon says to another surgeon, wow, that procedure you did is unbelievable. Well, that means something because he knows what he's looking
Versus us going in and being like,
Well, so
wow,
yeah.
that was amazing.
That was amazing.
We don't know
No,
what we're looking
So
at.
I
No.
was going to make a reference or a story behind it, bringing that to marketing, right? Because you want to have your team kind of sharpen your skills too, right? So
Yeah.
the team, you in my head, I'm sending my stuff to my team. So yesterday or Tuesday or whatever, we had our status, and I had been in the radio, Charleston radio station the day before with Matthew trying to do some ads for the podcast. So I showed the team the ads. Oh my God. They laughed me out of the Zoom call. Like, no, there wasn't any, there is no.
Now, they work for you, right? So you fired them all?
You know what I mean? Well, it's, I got a business partner too, but yes, right. So
We can deal with
it
it.
was my team.
I know people. I can make a phone call.
But there is no, I love that about my team, right? Because there is no, hey, oh, that's a great idea. Keep going with that idea. No, it would be like, no, what are you doing? Do it again. Don't be salesy. I need to deliver it without sales. So anyhow, but yeah, steel sharpens steel. You got to trust the people that you're working with, and then the product at the end of the day comes out 100
Well,
times over.
and
Pretty awesome.
When you're trying to, let's say, do screenwriting,
Mm.
you're peeling an onion that may have many, many layers. The actual script you're going for,
Yeah.
and it's fairly easy to work really hard and get a layer or 2 or 3 off of that onion. But there's more layers under there. And with experience, you can uncover those yourself.
Okay.
But everybody reports to somebody. And like Steven Spielberg, when he makes a movie, doesn't just make a movie. He shows his first cuts to George Lucas, Francis Coppola, Robert Zemeckis, these top filmmakers.
Oh, wow.
They show each other the first cuts of their movies
gosh.
privately, so they get fresh, informed eyes.
Sure.
Steven, what the hell were you thinking?
Mm.
This doesn't work. Thank you. Because he doesn't have the objectivity. I mean, everybody reports to somebody. You have to have
Mm-hmm.
meaningful, supportive, nurturing feedback. It does no good to have somebody go, "You suck."
Right.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Right.
And
They laughed at me, Tom. I get it.
but you have to have that as
Yes.
long as you've been doing this.
Right.
Whatever that was, it
Yeah.
wasn't perfect.
Exactly.
Well, okay, wake up, make a change, or
Right.
not,
Or not.
and the thing about I used to tell my college students, screenwriting students, that a screenwriter is not a writer. You're a tailor. What do you mean you're a tailor? Well, you have this little tailor shop,
Okay.
in
All
the
right.
mall. The guy comes in and says, "I'd like you to make me a suit." "Yes, sir, I can make you a suit." "What would you like?" "Well, I want the scratchiest burlap you have for the pants. I want the zipper on the side. I want the waist too tight for
Mm.
my big belly and my big butt, and then I don't want the front open. I want one lapel smaller than the other,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and one sleeve. I want to just do a quarter sleeve, 3/4 on one arm. "Well, but sir, that's what I want. Are you going to make it or not?" Yes, sir. I'll do the best I can to your specifications. So you make the suit.
Yeah.
The guy comes in, tries it on. What the hell are you doing? Why is one sleeve shorter than the other? And the zipper ought to be in the back, not the front. But sir, I don't care what I want it the way I want it. Yes, sir. I'll be happy to make that suit for you. That's what a professional writer does, because you're writing for someone. Even if you write a screenplay on your own, you've got one that you're working on, and you finally sell it to Universal Pictures. As soon as they buy it, they own it. Now they say, well, that love story between the guy and the girl from college, we think it ought to be between a goat and a hamster, but that's not what I write. That's what we want.
Yeah,
it's our script. You want to do it, or should we bring somebody else in? Ultimately, it's somebody else's thing, and it's yours till it's not yours. And if you're writing, if you're a freelance writer, somebody is paying for that, and it's their money.
Yeah,
their party favors.
Yeah,
that's that. And
right.
So
that's a hard lesson to learn.
Hard lesson to learn, and you learn it over and over and over. And even if you're the executive producer of a hit series, you've still got studio executives, nervous network executives. You've got people, nervous actors who have perhaps even a huge amount of influence, more influence than you because of their face on the screen.
Yeah, of course.
And so you learn to roll with it to some extent. And if you can't, then it's really not for you.
Right.
This conversation is not intended to be a recruiting effort for people to get into the TV or movie business,
but
because it's not for everybody.
Well,
it just isn't.
Everything you're saying relates to the marketing world and to the advertising world.
Yeah.
You get a budget, you get an ad, you get a product. It's their product. You have to tailor it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a great. So how do you come up with all these ideas, Tom? So you get a project, and the project gives you. Back in the day, now I know you're writing for yourself. You're pretty much, you got all these great stories in your writing, and I can't wait to talk about that. We'll end with those books. But before then, where do you drum up these ideas?
Well, Katie can attest to the fact that it's a severe mental illness that I have.
Which one is it?
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
It's funny when you live in a world of stories, and even people that are doing this as a hobby, they write short stories or whatever, poems. You learn early on to get as much stimulation, feedback as you can from the world around you. So I'm an obsessive compulsive newspaper reader.
Okay.
I read the newspaper in my working life. I would read, a couple of newspapers a day,
and leave them all stacked up, which my mom loved.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, Mom.
If I missed a couple of days, I would go crazy that I might have missed something.
You might have missed a story that inspired you that happened into the newspaper.
Right. And you don't know where these things are going to come and where they're going to poke you.
Yeah.
So we'd go on vacation and we'd have somebody watching our house, and we'd say, whatever you do, don't throw any of the newspapers away. We'd come home, it'd be a stack like this, and Ann would roll her eyes and go, oh my God, this guy's gonna. And I would get through them all.
King.
And I would clip out things back when I was reading a physical newspaper in those days. But when we moved from Los Angeles, I had 6 file cabinets in the garage, tall ones, full of articles and ideas and notepads and stuff. You don't know where it's going to go.
He always kept a notepad next to his side of the bed because he said he would wake up in the night with this idea and would be afraid to lose it, so he'd always write it down in the dark so he wouldn't forget.
Yeah. Oh, that's that. I was,
in the car too.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I heard a great interview with Paul McCartney once, a radio interview for one of his albums with Wings, and they said, John Lennon had just recently died, and they said, well, you're Paul McCartney. Do you have your thought about what your obituary is going to say? So I know exactly what it's going to say. Paul McCartney, former Beatle, and a member of Wings, composer of Yesterday, died today. And they said, really, why yesterday? He said, it's the greatest thing I'll ever do. And he said, the irony is I didn't write it. And the interviewer said, well, what do you mean you didn't write it? You wrote it. He said, no, I dreamt it. He said, I woke up, I would write things down in the middle of the night in my sleep. Sometimes it made no sense. I woke up one morning and that song was there. And he said, it's the greatest thing I'll ever do, and I dreamt it. He said I had to fill in, lyrics and things, but he said the melody, whatever it was written out, and he said I've got songs I've labored over for weeks that I wouldn't play for anybody. They're horrible, and this thing, the greatest thing I'll ever do, I just channeled it, and it was waiting for me when I woke up. And later, I went to a seminar at the Directors Guild in Los Angeles, and it was a psychotherapist, Dr. David Grand was his name, and psychotherapist out of New York. He treated a lot of the first responders and survivors of 9/11.
Okay.
A really interesting guy. And he was applying some of these psychotherapy techniques to creative people and to sports figures.
All right.
How do you channel whatever that mysterious thing is forward
Yes.
into the most usable thing? His book is called The Grand Method, by the way.
The Grand Method. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, but basically, it's a way he described it is then your all your involuntary stuff, your blinking of your eyes, your heartbeat,
right.
All of that happens in the back here in the reptilian part of the brain.
Okay.
And the front part of the brain, where all the intellectual stuff happens, is something if you have an inspiration, it's got to go from here to here, and your mind is most creative when it's at rest. That's why you have ideas in the shower.
Yeah.
You're sitting there shooting blanks, and and you realize stuff.
Right.
Or you wake up in the middle of the night, you've solved all the world's problems because your mind is completely at rest. And
mowing the lawn,
the
doing
pathway
dishes.
to go from here to here is uncluttered.
Okay.
As soon as you wake up and the world starts to happen, things get in the way of it like log jams.
Sure.
And artists, actors spend their life learning acting techniques to clear that, so they can have a clear channel to where they can actually use whatever's happening back.
I didn't know that.
And so like method acting and all that, it's all about getting rid of the obstacles.
Meditation, is that part
that
of it?
helps anything like that to clear that out. So he has a technique. There's something called EMDR that they use in psychotherapy, where they have headphones and they beep from one channel to the other.
Oh.
Yeah, it's used for like trauma too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He said there were people that were catatonic after 9/11, completely unresponsive, and they were able to, with months of EMDR technique. He said it's like guys coming back from war and the PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen things so horrific that they can't unsee them.
Oh, God.
And he said it's like in the old days when they had movie projectors and theaters, and the film would get caught and you'd see it, the thing just frozen on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so if you can clear that away,
Mm-hmm.
you have a chance at least to have a normal relationship with life around you.
Sure.
And there were people that became functional after 9/11 because of EMDR that all these therapists were doing.
Super.
And he said, well, what if it's that powerful, what would that do for creativity?
Right.
So what he did, he said, well, one of the most soothing and restful things you can listen to is certain kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
So he got the soft Brazilian jazz, and he would pan it, left channel, 100%, then pan it over to the right channel, 100%, then back over slowly. Well, when you stimulate this side of your hearing,
Mm-hmm.
this wakes up. When you stimulate this side wakes up. And by alternatingly stimulating the left and right lobes, it clears the pathway in the middle that blocks you from being the best sports guy. Why was Kobe Bryant so much better in basketball than half the guys on his team?
Mm-hmm.
They're similarly physically, capable. They have the same nutrition, the same training, the same textbook learning about basketball. But one guy is superior, and it's about focus. And it's about to hear him and he has Olympic athletes and all kinds of people in his practice and actors. So he did a demonstration. That's a longer story than you are interested in. But he did a demonstration. I'm sitting in the Directors Guild of America, and there's 500 movie and TV directors in the room.
Okay.
And he had an actor come on stage. He had never met him. The guy had just finished performing in a play in Los Angeles, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced him. He said, I asked you to come with a monologue. And he said, yes. It's a monologue he'd been delivering, 3 times a week for the last 6 months in the play.
Uh-huh.
So he stood up in front of all these directors and did his dramatic monologue. And it was great. I would have hired the guy in a minute. He was a wonderful actor, all kinds of nuances. It was terrific. He said, okay, now I want to demonstrate this technique. So he sat him in a chair, put headphones on him, and we could hear through the speakers what he was hearing. And he put on this soft Brazilian jazz. And it was just so mellow and cool, just the vibe of that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, close your eyes, sit there, all this kind of stuff they do in meditation.
Right, left, right? Same.
Yeah.
Right, left
And
speaker?
it's
Left
just
to
going
right?
left to right. Instead of beeps,
Yeah.
the music is
Mhm.
going. So, because you got the extra oomph, that music will do to your brain.
Yeah.
So, and then he's doing the psychotherapy stuff. You're sitting in a chair. Yes, okay. Are you relaxed? Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your back against the chair. Totally chilling him out. Then, okay, now I want you to imagine yourself walking down a long hallway. The guy said, yeah, okay. And then he'd say, now there's a door at the end of the hallway. Do you see the door? Yeah, I do. Open that door. Okay. Now it's a huge room, and there's a full-length mirror in the middle of the room. Do you see the mirror? Yes, I do. The guy's eyes are closed. He's just talking, and meanwhile this music's playing. Whole audience is like getting drawn in.
Audience is there, yeah.
We're all totally like, what the hell is this? And he said, okay, as you approach the mirror, the reflection is not going to be you, but it's going to be the character that you played in the play.
Ooh.
Do you see the reflection? Yes, I do. Great. Now I want you to look him in the eye, and now I want you to step into the mirror. And the guy said, okay. and he said, are you in the mirror? Yes, I am. He said, okay, now I want you to open your eyes and turn off the music.
Uh-huh.
Now I'd like you to do the monologue again. It was like a different human being. And I'm not kidding.
No kidding.
Here's a trained
But
actor.
he did a really good job the first time.
He was great the first time.
And then the second
it was
time.
like it wasn't even human. It was the transformation of it was like going from black and white to color. And this is a guy who had been doing this same monologue for 6 months.
Yeah.
Knew the character, knew how to play it, did a great job, and it was amazing.
Wow.
And he said, so, if you're a writer and you have writer's block, something like this could help. You sit down and listen to the headphones, and, or have it on the speakers, in your desk, and you get a panning.
I was going to say, I'm trying to find in my head, I'm trying to okay, so you just sit in a room.
You probably Google.
And you
Google
go
something
position,
about it.
right, left position. You just do it yourself.
Yeah, but you could record that. You could do it here in the studio before you leave. You could get some really cool thing, but it's all kinds of auto things where it'll pan left, pan right, pan.
Sure,
and you
YouTube
pick a
something.
slow
Those things
thing.
play on YouTube.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. And so, but the whole idea is to relax yourself into a place
Yeah, it's amazing.
where these obstacles don't occur.
Mm-hmm.
And like I used to, when I was writing for a living, I would get up at 5 a.m. I'm not a morning guy, but I loved
So
writing
nice
in the
to
morning.
hear, Tom. I am not either.
Oh, it's awful.
Oh,
But at 5 a.m, you're half asleep.
yeah,
You're Paul McCartney asleep. You know what I mean?
uh-huh.
There's not a thought in your head.
Right.
And I'd make a cup of coffee, and I'd sit at the dining room table in my bathrobe, and I would just be writing, and I would do that for a couple hours, then I'd go to work, and eventually, and I didn't have the EMDR music playing or anything,
Sure.
but it's the equivalent. Is I was so relaxed, there wasn't a thought in my head. I could barely awake.
Yes.
So whatever comes to you is going to be arguably more pure.
I like it.
It's not editorialized.
Mhm.
You're not. The phone's not ringing. You're not worried about anything.
Nobody else
You're
is
not-
up.
You
You're
did.
ahead of the
You
game.
did always write with music on, though.
Yeah,
That was my next question.
Well, I
is-
can't sit in a quiet room.
I have
I
trouble right
don't
now.
like it either.
I need music at all
yeah,
times.
Yeah, or the TV on.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And I was that way as a kid,
Yeah.
doing my homework, and I have this little transistor radio on the desk, and I'd be playing, WLS radio in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
There's WCFL, listening to all the rock songs, and my dad would come in. What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be studying. I have to have.
Yeah.
It's a dual brain
Yep.
thing that I can't explain.
Yep. Classical music
But-
was my favorite back in the
Yeah,
studying
well,
times,
I've learned over time to put on the kind of music that would be best a triggering mechanism for what I was writing.
for the genre that you're
So
writing.
it might
I
be
love
classical,
that idea.
it could be jazz, it could
Yeah.
be
Horror. If you're writing a scary
So,
Yeah.
oh, sometimes Katie just knocks on the door. You
No
know, I
kidding.
want to go in there.
Don't even get me started
It's
on
a
those
bloodbath
stories.
right now.
But everybody has their own process.
Yeah.
What gets you to that place?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking about actors and method acting.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of different philosophies about acting classes.
Mm-hmm.
They're all different, but they all get you to the same place, which is an emotional availability, a purity that you're not getting in the way of whatever you're doing as an actor. So it's an honest, truthful. I'm so sorry.
That's right.
How dare you?
Don't spit on the mic, Tom.
Can't you see I'm talking? Anyway, they all get you to the same place. So, some people, I love going to coffee shops and just sitting, not a coffee house, but a coffee shop with a pot of coffee and some eggs and
Like a
sit-
diner.
a
Like a
diner,
diner.
and sit there for hours. It's a
People
great
watching.
environment. I can
Mhm.
like zoom right in on whatever I'm doing for some reason in that environment.
Interesting.
But just to have in my office now here, to have the TV on, what doesn't matter what's on. I'm not watching that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just background noise.
Right.
And the background noise somehow helps me focus on what I'm doing. I couldn't explain why. Music, of course, is a big.
To me, it was almost like moving forward. It's something that else is moving forward. Now I'm going to be moving. It's
Oh,
like
yeah, I
it
like that.
motivates
Yeah.
me doing the dishes. Let's say, right? I'm like, I don't want to do dishes. Well, if I put some music on,
Yeah.
okay, doing dishes
Yeah.
isn't so bad. And then to the effect, the ideas come a flow in. When or running, working out, that type of thing.
If
So,
you look up that EMDR, what it is,
Yeah, I
and what
can't
this
wait.
guy, Dr.
EMDR.
Grand,
Yeah.
he's written several books on this, but it's worth
taking notes.
trying,
Mhm.
to get you to that the best access to your creativity more quickly.
Right.
Because all it's really doing is putting your mind at rest,
Mhm.
and when it's at rest, it can become all this stuff back here can go forward.
Yep.
Because we all got these ideas. All you're driving in the car, and you're suddenly, oh my God, I forgot Aunt Trixie's birthday. Where did that come from?
Right. Sorry,
It
Aunt
was
Trixie.
back here somewhere.
Where
and
did
then
Aunt Trixie come from? That's so weird.
The new novel he's
that-
writing.
That's from your real family.
Your other family.
Your real family.
How many? Oh wait, one of my thoughts is: are you an only child as well?
Now I've
Tom?
got two brothers.
Two brothers.
He's middle.
Middle kid. Yeah.
Middle kid.
And then Katie is obviously the only child.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so and she's the product of some weird lifestyle.
We don't have to go. We don't have to go there. She's sitting right there.
But it's true. I mean,
No,
your
just kidding.
dad that does these stupid stories for a living. It's
amazing.
not a normal
It
life.
took us
It's
on lots
definitely
of fun,
not. That's what makes it amazing.
going to visit him on location. I got
Mhm.
to go to a lot of cool places.
She got to be in some of the
Be-
episodes. She has an
I was
background
always
person.
an extra.
Yeah.
Get to have lunch, with Chuck Norris in his trailer. Got to,
Chuck Norris.
just all these
Cool.
cool vacations, and we'd get to bring friends sometimes, and just it was a cool added lifestyle thing. We
Yeah.
lived in New York, down, Manhattan for a summer.
Yeah.
Vancouver.
Oh my gosh.
Fun stuff.
Vancouver. I bet that
There were
was
vacations for you. I was
Right,
working.
where yeah,
But still,
vacation.
that's the advantage of doing stuff on
being a
location.
writer and
The
that.
disadvantage is then your family's not there and you're hanging off a cliff by
Mm.
Yeah,
yourself.
missing
and,
stuff or
and missing your
Right.
stuff. My family, my dogs, my friends, my stuff. Everything.
What brought you to Charleston?
me.
What does
So
that mean?
I moved here 13 years ago.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I went from LA to Colorado to Chicago to Charleston. So after I graduated high school, I went to University of Colorado Boulder.
Okay.
Then my whole group of college friends and I moved to Chicago, where we lived for 6 years, and then I moved here 13 years ago. So my parents just kind of waited to see where I was going to settle.
Sure.
And
Every time we came here, it was great. It was
Yeah.
like, what?
What's
This
there
is
not to
awesome.
love
so
about
they
this
finally
place?
moved
Yeah.
here, 6 years ago?
Oh,
Is that
okay.
right now?
Exactly 6 years.
Halloween is when you closed on your house. That's
yeah.
right. I always remember that date.
Mhm.
But
So-
exactly 6 years ago. And
Yeah.
she had her nonprofit. And
So you started going places before they moved here?
I started it 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Seven
You were
and a
teenager
half years
before
ago.
almost
that, weren't
8. But she would call and say, "Oh my God, somebody just sent us $1,000," and you want to say, "Let's go have a drink and celebrate." Oh, we're 3,000 miles away.
you? Yeah.
And but every time we visited, we thought this was a great place,
Yeah.
just as she did when she visited her cousin here.
Yeah.
And
But they were like, we're watching this online with the rest of the world. We should be there.
yeah, so we we
Retired early.
we retired, and I was teaching full time at the university by then, and Ann was working in the high school office at the school she had gone to, and in LA, and we just like, what are we doing? I don't want to. I don't want to be here and missing out on all this. So we kind of decided to pull the plug and sell the house and move here.
Nice.
But they're like, we're so glad you picked here and not, somewhere in the
Chicago,
middle of nowhere.
Chicago.
Well, Chicago, that's where all of our
That'd be cool.
relatives are on both sides. So that would have been great too. But it
she
gets
she
cold
could have
there.
been in the Arctic Circle and it wouldn't have mattered. We would have still eventually gone there.
Yeah.
But she happened to, thanks to her cousin, stumble on this amazing place that
Isn't it great?
we didn't know anything about.
So you moved in 2019 then? 'Cause that's when
18.
So I moved here in 2019 from Tampa, and just made it, right? I mean, just squeaked in before the COVID, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else really but here.
I wish we'd done it a couple of years earlier.
I know.
And now that I know what I know.
And they live like 10 minutes from me, so it's.
Where did you land then?
What's that?
Where did you land?
Snee Farm.
Snee, yeah. My in-laws are in Snee.
Yeah.
Law Lane.
And she's just.
Oh, that's right by them.
Yeah.
He said
where are
Law
you?
Lane.
Like 900 block Law Lane or something like that. Whipple entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right by them.
Yeah, we're around the block from them.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But she's always been within a 5-minute drive of us, and now she's very close, and she's got a great place, and it's nice to be around.
Because I used to see them like once a year.
Yeah.
It was
It's
for a
game
long
changer when
weekend,
you
so
get
it's
them
much
close.
better now.
Yep.
Now it's like, let's go get dinner tonight. Okay.
But it's a great place to be retired. We get to be a part of her nonprofit and help when she needs help.
We're gonna build some bikes soon, don't we?
Yep.
Yeah, Ann does a lot more stuff to help her than I do because I'm semi-useless, as you might
Well,
imagine.
so moving into that, you're not semi-useless because you're putting some of this brain power into work here. I am honestly very excited. On the way here, I'm like, hope he brings a book. And you're going to give this to us?
No, these are yes.
He
No,
signed
sure.
them for you.
Oh, you
I
signed.
them.
That's right.
I
That's right.
signed them.
Aw,
So I've
thanks,
now
Tom.
I've now eliminated any potential
So-
value they will ever have.
Show a picture, hold
Well,
them
so
to the
the-
camera.
The ones that aren't using YouTube right now
Yeah.
are traditional
Well,
podcasters.
this first
We're
one
talking
that
about
you're holding
Silent
is
Partners.
Silent Partners
Yep.
is a forensic thriller, and you asked early on about where did the ideas come from?
Yes.
And this was in one of those moments of sitting on a deck with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, thinking about perfect ways to murder somebody,
My gosh.
which is the twisted things that you do when you write. I've done a
You're a
lot
writer.
of cop shows and detective
Yeah.
shows, and what is the crime? How is the crime? Is it a perfect crime? And so our next door neighbor, sitting on the balcony right next to our townhouse, was a forensic pathologist.
Oh, come on.
So I'm literally talking to him about, is there any cool ways you could kill somebody and be undetected? Oh yeah, there's a bunch of them. And then he's telling me
Oh my
the
gosh.
inside baseball stuff about the coroner's office and autopsies and the literally the murder people are getting away with every day all across the country. And I was like, oh my god, this is great, it's great. And I took a couple of those seeds
Sure.
and planted them back here, and eventually Silent Partners emerged, and so that was my first novel. It took a long time to get it done because I didn't know anything about writing a novel. It's very different than writing a screenplay.
That was my next question. Yeah, the whole business behind that's pretty interesting too, especially nowadays with the AI and people just taking advantage of being an author, quote unquote.
Yeah, well,
You're like a human
I don't
AI.
think
You're like
AI
a walking AI with stories, aren't you?
I don't know about AI writing a
Prompt
whole
Tom.
novel. There's probably people getting outline ideas or drafts
exactly.
out of IA, but
Exactly.
I don't.
There is some
I'm
good
old
for
school. I'm actually going to do the work.
Yes.
And then the other one, Devious Thinking, is a revenge comedy, born of, again, I very early in my career when I was working on the Hallmark Hall of Fame, we were doing a Hallmark movie in Rome, and so you're living there among them. You're in the
As
hotel,
Romans
and
do.
we had Giancarlo was our driver, driving my Dwayne and his secretary and me to the set every day, and you're immersed in all these wild Italian personalities, and it's such a vibrant semi-insane, culture.
I can imagine.
And the stuff that I heard about and witnessed, and the conversations I had with guys in the crew, some things that actually occurred in front of me,
Yeah.
weird incidents, all got filed away, and ultimately it turned into it's two women who get even with the two jerks that did them wrong.
Okay.
They happen to two Americans, but they're stranded in Rome.
All right.
By reasons of the plot, and they're going to get even with these two guys. And many of the things and some of the people were real, and I happened right in front of me, and they all got woven into this fictional tale. But it's every jerk that ever treated a woman wrong, frankly.
Okay.
A lot of the guys you and I have met and known in our lives, it's
just not us.
Maybe
though,
some of the
right?
guys you've dated, you might want to.
Probably. But why don't you give a
Taylor Swift
summary
style.
of what you just said forensic thriller, but can you give a little more of a
devious
summary
thinking.
of what?
The
Silent
summary
Partners is?
so Silent Partners is a young guy
Yeah.
who's a paramedic at UCLA Medical School.
Okay.
He's working part-time as a paramedic to pay for medical school, and he winds up doing backstage paramedic duty at the Greek Theater, which is a big concert venue in LA, open air, really fabulous.
Okay.
And he's lobbied to get this duty for this concert because the woman performer is, the Taylor Swift of, in his life. She's young and she's beautiful and she's popular and everything. And he meets her, and they have the night of every guy's dreams, and he thinks this not only, oh my God, did I just spend a night with this perfect woman, but this could be something.
Oh, he's in love.
The next night, she drops dead in the middle of her concert.
Oh, okay.
And he's unable to save her. And he goes into a spiral because he can't believe that this woman he admired, the woman he made love to, was what the coroner said was a drug addict. He can't believe it. He just, I looked in her eyes. There's no way she was a drug addict. She never used drugs ever. I know that. What could this be? He starts to look into it, and the more he looks into it, the more someone's trying to stop him from looking into it. And
So that's where the forensic
like,
thriller part comes in.
like a Hitchcock movie. I mean, things are happening to him, and they get more and more specific. And
The deeper he gets, the crazier the stuff is.
yeah, and he's basically having a breakdown. I mean, he doesn't know what's real, what's not real. He's really up against it, but he's using his medical knowledge from school to help fuel him, along the way, to try to solve what really happened to her. And it gets, like these kind of stories do, it gets, very exciting, and there's a lot of danger.
I'm sure.
There's a trail of bodies and all that stuff.
Oh my.
No,
I'm going to dive
And
into
we
it.
will link these with the podcast. So if anyone's interested in purchasing these books, we'll provide the link.
100%.
This one's also an audiobook. It's on Audible.
Okay.
This
one he's pointing at Silent Partners.
Silent Partners.
Silent
yeah.
Partners is all
That's
audio.
an audiobook. They're both on Kindle as well.
Who's reading it? Are you reading it? Is Katie reading
No.
it?
An actor.
You got an
Like professional actor.
Professional actor, Will Sterling, did a really good job playing all the different characters.
There's actually a trailer my dad had made, like a movie trailer for Silent
that was
Partners.
my next question.
So
when is
that,
the movies?
when we link the books, you can buy both from his website. And the trailer for the movie, for the book, is on there. And you're watching the trailer, and you're like, but I want this to be a movie too. Like it's so, and it's with professional actors. He wrote, directed it, and it's amazing. So that'll if his description didn't hook you, the trailer will for sure.
Well, it was fun because you write a book, and how do you promote it? How do you market a book?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we all see movie trailers. They're really exciting, and they draw you in. I thought, well, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm a TV producer, so I adapted scenes from the novel into script form, and hired actors and put a crew together and shot full scenes, even though you only need sometimes just one line of dialogue. You said what, and that's all they show you. But I wanted the actors to have the whole scenes for their demo reels, and also to be able to say that line of dialogue in a context of the dramatic moment.
In the moment.
So I did way more work than I probably needed to, but it was really fun.
Oh, I bet.
And
Did you produce it here or in California?
it was in California. And
When are we gonna start producing stuff here, Tom? This is where we got.
when?
Yeah. You know, Danny McBride. Who moved here first? You were in the McBride crew.
If you got $30 or $40 million, we could make something.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Katie, we got a lot of bikes to build.
Yeah.
We got a lot
There's a
of
lot of
fundraising
bikes.
to go.
Send your money to me and not Katie. That's for the for devious thinking.
Yeah.
Instead of a trailer, it's there's a bunch of YouTube promo videos.
Oh, okay.
Because those two I can do. I
Yeah.
did those here, but I put a couple of silly ones up.
What,
And
how was that? What were you doing? What does it look like?
they're little commercials, testimonials from fake people, things like that.
Oh.
And but it got to the point where people would shoot them and send them to me. I got a
Oh,
couple from people
perfect.
that just like, oh, I love those little commercials you did for your book. Here's one, and then I would clean it up and put it up there.
Are
So
all
that-
these linked on your website?
They're all on my webpage.
Okay,
Oh, no
cool.
kidding.
And but they were fun to do.
And what's your website?
TomBlumquist.com.
Yeah, there we go. Tom Blumquist.
But anyway, it's something I could do to tell people, hey, I'm out here. Here's my book.
Yeah.
And the promos are important, and it's something I'm able to do that maybe another writer who's not from production couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I can make this happen. And
So did Lindstrom Legacy find you, or did you find Lindsay? Like,
I
how
am
did-
Ah.
I am Lindstrom Legacy.
Tell that quick story.
Mr. Blomquist.
The
You're so smart.
Our last name should be Lindstrom.
my grandfather was born a Lindstrom,
Okay.
and his parents were killed in a horse and buggy accident of some kind back in the day.
Yeah.
And so he and his brother Fritz and his sister Ellen were adopted by 3 different families. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Keep
the
hitting
mic.
that.
They were adopted in the small town by different families, so they could still
So
be in the same
each
school.
family, like kind of the neighborhood, took a kid so they could all still grow up
This
together.
isn't one of your Tom stories, right?
No,
this
this
isn't
is
a
real.
story.
This
This
is
isn't
real.
another book.
No.
This is a real
where we
life.
It's a real life
came
story.
from.
So he was
That's pretty
adopted by
cool.
the Blomquists, and
Okay.
so
But he was Swedish, so Lindstrom is a Swedish name.
Yeah.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
Blomquists were Swedish,
Yeah.
so our Swedishness is still
Swedishness.
is
But
still legit.
so all our lives, my older brother and I especially would say to our dad, "Why didn't you change your name back when
Yeah.
you grew up?" He said, "I know, it never occurred to me. I probably should have." So when I decided to become a book publisher, I thought the perfect
As one does.
name
Yeah.
is Lindstrom
Yeah.
Legacy. So I'm the legacy of the Lindstrom thing. So it's the only time that name will
Isn't that
occur
fun?
in life. But Lindstrom Legacy is me.
So you're publishing your books.
Yeah.
Do you have any other writers under your
Nope,
publishing?
Nope. This is just me putting my stuff out there. And
That's pretty cool.
it's like what happened in the publishing world is
Mhm.
no different than in indie music or movies. Why does an artist sign with a big label? They just put their music out there on their own.
Yeah.
And you don't have all those layers of management scrutiny,
Mhm.
editorializing on what you're doing. And to make a movie at a Hollywood studio is taking on a whole lot of bosses and partners
Sure.
and collaborators that maybe you don't necessarily want. But if you can raise the money and make the movie yourself,
Why wouldn't you?
why wouldn't you?
Mm.
And so that's kind of what this was.
Mhm.
It was, I'm not trying to be John Grisham and, best-selling author and all that. I don't care about it. This is me. This is my retirement.
Yeah.
Can
That's what
I
you're
do
saying.
this? Am I able to physically do this
Right.
at a decent level creatively?
Uh-huh.
And if people like it, great. And they responded very positively to these.
Mhm.
But it's not about me trying to be, the new Random House guy.
Yeah.
If they stumble on my book and want to pick up the book, fine, we'll talk about that. But it's not about that. John Grisham's first book was printed in a local print shop, and he used to sell them out of the back of his car
Yeah.
at football games
I
in the
believe
parking
it.
lot.
I believe it.
I mean, literally, John Grisham.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And-
wow.
And how old was he when his first book came out? He
I don't
wasn't
know,
young,
but
was he?
Well, he was a lawyer So he was probably in his 30s, but still, he literally had boxes of these. He'd go to supermarkets like the Girl Scouts are selling cookies. He's out there selling his first novel, and then one of the big publishers, Simon & Schuster or somebody,
Yeah.
picked it up, and then he became John Grisham, the John Grisham. This is me being retired.
Yeah.
I'm the guy
Making
playing
yourself
golf
happy,
on the weekend.
writing stories.
I'm not
Ooh,
trying to be
there we go.
on the golf tour,
Okay.
It's just
Wait, I thought you said you didn't golf.
it's fun.
You're
Oh,
toying
that's
with
true.
me.
Metaphor. Wrong one. But anyway, that's
I'm
what
happy
this is
for
like
you.
for me,
That's
and
amazing.
it's
Can't wait to
enormously
retire.
fun.
I'm
and
gonna be a
so
writer
fun.
when I retire. It's not that easy.
It's a great
though.
way to be
It's
retired.
Not that easy. It's not that easy.
Oh no, right?
You've done
easy.
so much.
Anybody
work.
can
It's
do that.
Ridiculous. Let me look at this listing of stuff. Well, before we close, I have to ask about the A Team. Like,
Sure.
is there a story? Is there, come on, A Team for crying out loud. Matthew Chase is actually asking too, and he's not even near the age of.
There
where
is an episode named.
Did you write some of the
Oh,
A
that's
Team?
the wrong
then?
one. I keep saying that.
Did you write some of it? Did you?
Yeah, I was
Mr.
at
T.
I was at Mr. T. I'll get you, sucker. What you talking about, fool?
Yeah, there you go.
And George Papard. I love it when a plan comes together.
Yes.
I was
Did you
at.
write that? You wrote that.
Well, I didn't
I love it
invent
when a
it,
plan
but
comes
every
together.
script had it. But no,
Oh,
Steve
that's pretty
Cannell
cool.
invented it.
All right.
I was at the company, Steve Cannell Productions,
No kidding.
and I was producing
Uh-huh.
one of his other shows, Riptide,
Okay.
which was a big hit on NBC. And it was the A Team and Riptide, and then Remington Steele were the three shows they had on
Sure.
on NBC on Tuesday nights. And so I always wanted to write an A Team. I loved the show. I was a big fan of it.
Yeah.
I got a kick out of it. And they were right down the hall. Frank Lupo, the executive producer, and
Oh,
Steve
okay.
Cannell was right down. And I just said, yeah, I'd really like to write one of these. Well, why don't you write one? So on weekends, I'd go in and I'd write my A Team script while I'm writing and producing Riptide during the week. And so I wrote an episode in the third season. It was called Blood, Sweat, and Cheers, about NASCAR racing and stock car racing. And they liked it. I loved writing it. And so a year later, Riptide was winding down. It was not going to be renewed. And they said, well, you already wrote one of these, and why don't you come over and produce A Team?
You got need another gig,
And I was in the company. They had to put me somewhere.
right?
And so I took off my Riptide hat, put on my A Team hat, and got to do that.
So cool.
That
And
was the
literally,
final
you had
season.
you actually had those hats.
I had those hats.
Yeah.
But
hanging in his office.
How many years or how many episodes?
that was the last season.
the last season.
And
Dear
it was
Lord.
really cool and fun because you get to be a 10-year-old boy again, blowing things
Right.
up. It's great.
Oh,
Oh, speaking of blowing things up,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I already know what you're gonna say.
and so you're on set too, right? I mean, you're
a lot
Oh,
of the
yeah.
time. I mean, look, when you're writing, you're stuck at your, in those days, typewriter or computer.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
But you need to be, if you're producing level person, you have to have a lot of presence. You have to have some
Hands-on.
presence on the set
Mhm.
because things go wrong, and if you're there, you can make a quick correction.
Yes.
It evolved to the point where now shows have one of the writers always on set,
Mhm.
and it might be, your script is shooting
Mhm.
Monday, so Monday you'll spend that whole next week and a half babysitting your episode,
Yep.
shepherding it through. When the director or the actors have questions,
Right.
you can make dialogue changes. Better you do it than some actor starts changing his dialogue.
Right.
Better you, who has the all the pieces of the puzzle in
Yeah.
your brain, do it.
Stick to the continuity, stick to
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah. So anyway, one of Katie's favorite stories, and actually it's probably the coolest thing I ever got to do
Uh-huh.
on a TV show, was I was doing Walker, Texas Ranger, and we blew up an entire neighborhood.
What?
I mean, literally blew it to toothpicks.
Oh my gosh. So what state are we in when we're doing this?
It was Dallas, Texas.
And I got to be an extra. And
Katie was an
It was
extra.
about a girl that was kidnapped, right?
Yeah,
And
by a mad bomber.
yeah, so it was a vacant neighborhood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so Janice Birkland, our location manager, came into my office one
Yeah.
day, and she said, DFW Airport is demolishing an entire subdivision, and they've been bulldozing houses for weeks, and there's one cul-de-sac left. Do you want to blow it up?
Yeah.
I said, Yeah, we didn't even have a script for it. Honestly,
You're
We'll
writing
build
around
a
that.
script around
You're
this
writing around
neighborhood.
that.
we're gonna
It
blow
was
this.
a great episode.
That
We're gonna
happens.
It
blow
was a
this
really
up.
good episode.
We're gonna blow this thing up, and so they said, yes, you can blow up these houses, but you have to haul the stuff away. We said, no problem.
Fine.
These were 6 luxury homes. These would be $1 million homes
Yeah.
in Sneak Farm. I mean, just beautiful
Sure.
homes, and they're all empty. So we sent in the special effects guys. You know, they scored all the support beams and everything. Had 50-gallon drums of gasoline, all primer corded, you know, up, and all we knew was that Chuck Norris was gonna jump out of a window and run to camera, and the house was gonna blow behind him, and then we would blow every other house in the neighborhood as people are being evacuated.
Yeah.
We had no script, so we just said we're gonna do this, and then one of my writers, Terry Nelson, figured out a script that would end with that, and it was a mad bomber on the loose and chasing, you know, Walker.
So much fun.
He was rescuing the girl from the mad bomber.
Rescued the girl, got her out of the house, and
I was one of the people running from the house. The whole neighborhood of the
So you were
residents
there
running out of the homes as
during
they
the
blow up.
explosions?
Oh, yeah.
I got to be there and see the explosion. I remember
So
it really well.
We're about 200 yards away from the houses, behind a blast shield.
Yeah.
Watching this happen, and the concussion blast from these homes blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could feel it. I mean, it's like somebody just shook you in your chair, like an earthquake, and it was very cool. And so the shot of Chuck diving through this window, and he comes up, and he's just booking right to camera.
Yeah.
The house just goes to toothpicks behind him, and he's still running. And we went, "Gee, Chuck, you were really hauling." He went, "Are you kidding me? Holy crap! There's shingles and everything." He was just
I was wondering.
He just had the best time.
Oh.
It was so fun for him, and there's some stuff on YouTube where you could see, you know, Chuck being interviewed about it and how he did it. But we had helicopters. The FAA had to cooperate.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because you can't blow up a neighborhood when planes are landing and
Well, you
taking
mentioned
off.
the airport being there.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
right there.
I was
It's
kinda
now a runway. When you land at DFW, you're probably
like-
landing where that subdivision used to be.
That's pretty neat.
So they had to reroute planes.
Mhm.
They had to notify all the pilots. You know, to say, well, if you see houses and a fires on down to your
Don't
right,
worry about it. It's just Tom.
Yeah.
that's Chuck
Tom's
Norris
at it again.
blowing up a neighborhood. It's okay. There's no terrorists or anything. So, because you could see these planes coming in, you wonder, what are these people thinking? And
Yeah.
they're looking out their window. Ladies and gentlemen, on your right, you'll see a neighborhood being completely blown to bits.
Awesome.
It was the coolest thing ever. And Terry wrote a great script, and it was a really good episode. In part because these are production values that a weekly TV series does not.
Correct. Right.
You know,
especially back then in the TV series.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't a movie. Right? And movies
right.
are,
Yeah, I mean, Die Hard movies, they
Yeah.
would take
Right.
advantage, or Lethal Weapon.
Right.
They would do this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
They've got 50, 60, 80, $100 million to do, not on a weekly TV series.
Yeah.
So for us to be able to do that
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah.
And we had a good script with it. Everybody enjoyed it, and it was special, you know, for all of us. But I got to be literally 10 years old again, blowing up a whole neighborhood.
So
and
cool.
you look at the camera, the helicopter shot, it looked like Dresden after the bombing runs in World War II. I mean, it was just black smoke and just flamed out, trashed out houses.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was really fun.
It's not. It's
It was called Blown Apart, by the way. You can find it on
Blown
YouTube.
Apart.
Blown Apart episode of Walker. And
And look for my little feet.
and look
me
for
running.
and look for Katie and
Third
standing by the
grade or
side of the
fifth
road.
grade, you're all-
7th grade.
Oh, was it?
I think you were in 7th grade. Yeah.
That's crazy. My one stint I had with making a movie. If you IMDb me, you'll see one AD credit, second AD credit. It's the
Which
hardest thing
was?
I've ever done.
What was it?
Hardest job I've ever done. It's called Random Tropical Paradise Island. I mean, it's not the best of names, right? But it was shot in December. I just had twins that September. So my wife was like, "We're gonna do what?" But you know this, and you know this too, Katie. Living the lifestyle. It was a whole month.
Oh yeah.
Whole month, 16, 18-hour days.
Oh yeah.
And you were just in in that moment, there's nothing else you can think about other than call sheets, where the talent needs to be, do they have their dailies, where am I going, like
Putting out fires constantly.
putting out fires constantly.
Right.
It was honestly, at that point I was like, okay, I know I really don't want to do that
Well,
anymore.
no, but it really isn't for everybody.
Yeah, really,
And,
it's a true story.
When you mention those hours,
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize those are typical hours. That's not like an extraordinary work day. It's 16 hours.
Yeah,
12 hours is a minimum.
yeah,
If you give a 12-hour day on a TV or a movie set,
you're happy.
it's like a half day,
You're getting out.
because 16, 18 hours is what they
Mhm.
normally turn
Mhm.
out to be, especially towards the end of the week.
Yeah,
And because you drop scenes and all those things that you have to make up.
rewriting the night before.
Oh yeah, guys like me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you rewrite the script. And,
Like, what do you mean there's a new script? Like,
yeah, no, but
amazing. It was just crazy.
It's what's the how to describe it? If people knew how much effort goes into even a terrible movie or
Yeah.
a terrible TV series,
This would be one of those.
it-
No offense, guys.
no, but it's the same effort goes into something that works and something that
No,
doesn't.
100%.
And you look at something, and we've all seen movies on Netflix or whatever, and you go, my God,
This is,
they got 3 Oscar winners and a really cool idea, and it's terrible. Why is that? Well, we don't know why necessarily. Something chemistry was wrong, but
here's the
Oh.
cover work. Random Tropical Paradise.
It's a good poster.
And look, I mean, it had names. Like this guy here, can't remember his name, but I like him.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, right. Brian Greenberg.
Oh yeah.
Brian Greenberg, Brooks Wheelan, Joey Pants was in it.
Oh yeah.
Like I had to Mr. Pants, Mr. Joey, it's time to go, because at the second I'm
Yeah.
I'm in charge of where
Oh, yeah.
all that and
Base camp.
base camp, yeah, and all right, here I come, right, let's go. You could have waited till I opened up the door, you know what I mean? Like all that type of stuff. It was just I got the whole gamut of movie making
Yeah.
experience,
The
and I woke up weeks later in the middle of the night thinking I needed to be on set.
Oh, that.
Post wrap up everything. Like
Yeah.
I remember sweating,
that's
waking up
pure
and like,
stress. Yeah.
wait,
It's like waking up
Well,
and you think you have a term paper or something you didn't turn in.
And
Yeah.
you never
school,
went
know.
to class.
Right.
It's like, oh,
it
yeah,
was
I have those dreams
Listen,
often.
the-
dramatic. Brittany
Cruise-
Ferlin,
Crews are really hardworking,
yes.
and
Spencer Grammer.
then anything. It almost you'll understand this. It's almost a miracle that anything good ever is made, because there's so much stuff
yes.
that goes wrong, can go
Yeah.
wrong. Whether it's the script doesn't work, or some of the wrong people are on the crew, or
Mhm.
the actors have issues, whatever it is. I worked on a show once. You'll love this.
Okay.
And I will not use names, but I worked on a show where the lead actor was having full mental breakdown kind of
Sure.
mode. Problems in his personal life. I think there were some chemical enhancement issues happening
Sure.
with him to cope with the incredibly long hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a call. He won't come out of his trailer.
Okay.
And what do you mean he won't come out of his trailer? The AD is he will not come out of his trailer.
Yeah.
He wants to see one of the producers.
Yeah.
Drive down to the set. What's going on? I think the hair and makeup people are trying to kill me.
Oh dear.
What? What do you mean? I think they're poisoning me through my hair follicles. True. I mean, this guy, now you can see,
So
how
what
far
now?
off on the ledge he was.
So you're not getting him back.
And no, we got him to work. And,
Oh, you got him to go to work?
It's in the hairspray. Oh, here, I'll spray. It's like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then one other time,
All right.
he was convinced the crew was trying to poison him through his instant oatmeal. And he wouldn't come out till one of the producers came and said, well, I'll eat it. It's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
But the point is not to make fun of him. He's a wonderful guy, by the way, and a terrific actor. But it was the pressure of those hours.
Uh-huh.
This particular show shot a
Yes.
lot of night work.
Okay.
And at night, people get a little
Yeah, lack
screwy.
of sleep,
Tired.
stress,
Lack
it
of
makes
sleep,
you
stress.
kind
Yeah.
of lose it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, and even if you go home and you sleep during the day, it's not the same. And
Yeah.
People that work nights at hospitals, whatever, God bless them, because that's special.
Mhm.
You have special wiring. But if you're just making some TV series. You're not used to that. That's not a lifestyle. You do it for 1, 2, 3, 5 years, but you never really get used to it, and then it changes on the next show.
Exactly.
And as a producer, the goal there is not just get some good scripts together and make the show entertaining, but now you're a shrink. You're dealing with somebody who's having authentic human problems, and your job is not to judge them.
Right.
Your job is to figure it out and help remove the obstacles, make it better, give them a day off, whatever you can do to try to get them from here to here painlessly. And every show I've worked on has had some element of that. Somebody's marriage is blown apart, and they're just miserable, and their dog died, and they hate each other.
Yes. Everybody's got issues.
Two actors had an affair when they made the pilot. Now they hate each other, and they don't want to be in the same scene, and they got to be in every scene together. Things like that happen.
Yeah.
And it's human nature.
Yeah.
So you're writing scripts and you're doing all the stuff, and the crew's working their butts off for 16, 18, sometimes 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Everybody's starting to come apart at the seams, and then you got to like, how do I help get this thing in a forward motion and still recapture the fun that everybody should be having. And I just to that point, there was a series, I won't even mention the name, but a friend of mine called me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm just freelancing." "Why?" He said, "Do you want to come write the last episode?" I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, none of us can stand the thought of writing one more." This is a huge hit show, a major hit show.
Yeah.
He said, we can't. We
We're
hate our lives. We hate these characters. We hate the star. We hate each other.
Wow.
Nobody. We've all written so many of these. We can't bear the thought of writing one more episode. Like, keep in mind, a major hit series, and well, geez, I love that show. I'll come in. And I wrote an episode, and a couple of friends of mine, a friend of mine that I'd worked with was directing it coincidentally, and another director that I'd worked with was actually going to guest star in it, because he used to be an actor, and it was so fun to go to their set. But the crew was like The Walking Dead. They're zombies. Yeah. They're all burned out. They're all over it. And it was the last episode, and everybody is already checked out mentally.
They needed fresh legs. Yeah.
And the writers, and we're talking about a fair amount of money per script to write, and they didn't want the money. Please, just have somebody else. I can't stand it.
Oh my gosh.
And that doesn't reflect their lack of professionalism.
Right.
They just couldn't do it again because of the hours.
I mean, you're in 20 days, 20, 30 days, 60 days. You're working on the same project.
I worked 80
day in, day out.
80 to 100 hours a week for decades, which is why I look like this.
Decades.
Sure.
You look great, Tom.
I'm 25 years old. I've lived a hard life.
Yes.
But the truth is, that's to do it and do it right. At least for me, that's what I had to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That is your life. And I completely understood what these guys were going through. The whole writing staff, total pros, been on a bunch of hit shows, big hit, this show, big hit show. And they just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't, please God, don't make me write another one of these.
Yep.
I mean, I just want to go on vacation. I want to be done with this. We're going to pull the plug, wrap my computer up.
But you got an obligation.
Get out of here.
You got to get it. You got to
so,
figure it out.
Anybody want to write one of these?
Call Tom.
Tom, maybe Tom's free. And I was, and it worked out because I loved the show. I always wanted to write one, and I never got a chance.
Oh my gosh!
So it was great.
You get to the finale, the
Perfect.
final
and
episode.
it was the last episode ever made. It was wonderful.
Oh my gosh! You're not going to tell me who that is,
No.
are you?
No. Later, I'll tell you later.
All right. Tom, this has been fun. Have you had fun?
Are
you having a good time?
When do we
Katie?
start recording? Are you
right? Did we record? Matt, what are you doing here? Katie, I want you to talk about your nonprofit too, right? I want to talk about Going Places real quick.
Yeah, I'll give a quick overview. So we give new custom bikes.
Get your checkbooks ready,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes.
And
We give new
Take
custom
notes.
bikes to whole schools of low-income elementary students in big surprise bike reveals. So we're giving 400, 600 bikes at once. And we've got 2 bike reveals this winter, one in November, one in December. One's November 22nd, and then December 19th. So we will be building those bikes and then surprising all the kids at Frierson Elementary School and Mitchell Elementary School.
That's cool.
And we're, looking for those end of year donations. Anyone, companies either pay the government the money, or you pick a nonprofit. We'd love to be, your nonprofit.
Yeah, please.
But I actually posted just today on social media. 8 years ago this month, I was a guest on the Steve Harvey show, and he donated $20,000.
What? How did you get into Steve Harvey?
I was a teacher. No, not
Oh,
my
it wasn't
dad.
a connection?
No,
I don't know him. No,
You don't know everybody on TV?
no.
I was a teacher. Did a GoFundMe to get all 650 kids in my school a bike.
Yeah.
And
It's your first time at bat. This first one.
yeah,
course.
it was just a GoFundMe. I was still teaching first grade.
Yeah.
And it started because Twitter partnered with TJ Maxx,
Yeah.
and they found 6 women around the country doing inspirational things,
Okay.
and I was one of them. They found it through, I don't even know. I think they just found, because I was social media. They looked
Yeah.
at GoFundMe campaigns. I'm not even sure. Oh, you know how they found it? This is how it all started. I won a GoFundMe campaign. Who could raise the most amount of money in X amount of hours or days would win $10,000 for their school, not for their campaign, for their school.
Uh-huh.
I won that.
Oh.
So then
How much did you? What?
$10,000 for
Oh
my
my
school. I don't remember how much. I had
Oh.
raised probably close to 17,000 or 10,000.
How much? What was your time frame? Like a month? Like 3 weeks?
A couple weeks. It was the very beginning stages, and so I won this, and so that press release went out.
Amazing.
And so then TJ Maxx and Twitter, I was one of the 6 women that they found. So this big New York marketing agency did handle all that.
Yeah.
And then through all this, now all these TV shows are starting to call. So Steve Harvey was one of them, and they flew me out, donated $20,000 on the spot,
Oh.
and from there it went truly viral. It raised over $80,000 in 3 months, and
wow.
that's one thing led to another.
They were supposed to give her 10,000, and he was so taken by the interview
Yeah.
that he surprised her with another 10,000.
Yeah. So the big check I have actually says 10,000 because that was the predetermined amount they decided,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Whoa, this is way cooler than I imagined.
Yeah.
I'm doubling that."
because he talked about his bike and how much it
Mhm.
meant to him as a poor kid
Well, yeah.
in the
But so
projects or whatever. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's on our social media if you want to check it out. Going
Now,
places.
What are your handles?
So Instagram is at going_places_nonprofit. And then Facebook is just at going places nonprofit. And so you'll see that video, the whole segment. And then I
Yeah.
also did kind of a recap video after it where I explain how it happened, that I got to go on the show,
Yeah.
and then what it was like being on the show and all the kind of behind the cool stuff. So it was a wild experience, but
And if you want to know how little I had to do with this, I mean, literally nothing to do with it. When she was in her hotel room in Chicago, this all happened like whirlwind, right?
oh, they called me at 4 p.m. and said, "We want you on an 8 p.m. flight tonight."
Oh my God.
So she gets to her hotel in Chicago to do the show in the morning, and I call her and said, "Look, I used to work in TV.
Yeah.
I produced a talk show at one point.
Want any tips
You know,
here?
do you want any pointers?"
Yeah. Some notes.
Dad, I got this.
Oh.
She shut me down. I got this. I because she'd been doing so many press interviews and things like this
Yeah.
by then that she's I got this.
No, yeah, I
So
really
I had
learned
literally
because
nothing to do with it.
I was doing all these live interviews. Like CNN would
Yeah.
interview me on their sister network HLN with Michaela Ferreira live on TV. So I learned very quickly how to be clear, concise, right away in the first take and get out everything I want to say in like 1 or 2 sentences.
Nice.
So that helped on the talk show. Was able to be really eloquent and say what I had to say, and
Perfect. My gosh.
yeah, it was cool.
So 8 years later,
8 years later, here we are.
what's the future?
We've given almost 5,000 bikes, locks, helmets, and bike pumps.
Wow.
And we did one
And
out
these
of
are really nice bikes.
they're custom.
These are not, the kind of low rent
Yeah.
kind of bikes. But these will cost you $250 in a store if you bought them.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
custom, heavy duty, well made,
Yeah.
really good bikes. She designs the colors and everything.
Oh,
We're very
fun.
proud of her for that.
Yeah,
They're very,
thanks.
really cool.
We did our first out of state one this past February. We gave 830 bikes in in Arizona with the Deanne Flores Shirts Foundation funded the whole thing.
Nice.
So that was awesome. So we do have the capability to do this outside of Charleston, which is kind of the goal, is to be able to keep doing these, having companies or foundations fund the entire project. Then I come in and I actually do it all for you. So that's the goal for sure.
Nice.
And when you go to one of these, the bike builds,
Bike builds. Yep.
you kind of can skate over that term. Go to a huge warehouse and you see hundreds of bikes, dozens and dozens of people building bikes, all the stack of boxes that they come in, they take them apart, put all these bikes together, and you see the little kid bikes, the medium bikes, the adult bikes, just as far as the eye can see.
And we do it in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
All perfectly
Very
lined up.
quickly.
It's a lump in the throat kind of
Amazing.
thing. All these people from the community coming out. You got guys in suits and ties taking lunch break. You got the local fire guys swing by in their fire truck
Kids
and
come
build bikes
with
until
their
they get a
parents.
call and they
Yeah.
gotta go. Kids come with their families. A lot of former military families, because some of them are beneficiaries of these bikes.
Yeah.
A lot of retired military mechanics. They love
Oh,
coming.
good.
Yeah, no, and it's really cool to be a part of that. If people find that on her website to sign up for like a 2-hour shift,
I do.
you come in there.
Yeah,
Right.
It's really fun.
companies will send teams during the workday because it's a team building
Sure.
opportunity.
Mhm.
Some companies will actually pay us for their staff volunteer time, so that's always a cool benefit. But a lot of companies give their employees a certain amount of hours per month they can take off from work to go volunteer. So we get a lot of those.
There was one wonderful guy who had a trucking company that used to pro bono provide the semis. You have to haul these bikes
Yeah.
to these different schools on
Yeah.
a schedule. And one day we were at a school in downtown Charleston, and he said, it was out in front of your warehouse down in the peninsula, and he said, "What do you think of that semi?" She said, "Looks great. It's an 18-wheeler." He said, "It's yours." And
What do you mean?
remember, what? He said, "Yeah, I made some calls, and a friend of mine had this." He said, "It's not new, but it works. It's perfectly
It was
safe."
the trailer part of the
That's
semi.
right. And he said, "So this is yours, and anytime you want me to do something, I'll hook one of my cabs up to it, and we'll do whatever you want. But this is yours." So she still owns
So you have a
that.
trailer, a
Yep.
semi-truck trailer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there may be some bikes left
That's
over,
neat.
from
Yeah.
one of
Like a
these things.
storage
and
too,
so
right?
Yep. We use it for storage right now.
and they have it in their secure yard,
Sure.
and she's got the key, the combination of the lock, but that's
That's cool.
the community that we are now living in.
Yeah.
That people will do
Charleston's
that.
like that.
He was a wonderful guy, and he passed away tragically. But what a great guy! And his company stayed with her for a long time, and other companies have jumped forward.
Yeah, BW Mitchum now provides all of our semis, and then if we want to use the bikes that are currently in our trailer, they'll go attach their cab to our trailer and deliver it for us. And
I mean,
they're like on time.
Well, that's huge.
They help. The drivers help.
remember-
I mean, you don't find that with any other truck company.
Mm-mm.
They're amazing.
You know how expensive new tires are for your car.
Yeah.
Was it last year? I
Now
think.
imagine on the semi truck.
2 years ago, the guy was late with her truck, her trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and when's he going to get here? When's he going to get here? Well, we went out and saw him. Tires didn't look right to us. We gave you all new tires. Those tires are
Yeah.
like for an airplane. They're huge.
I mean, I'm sure they're thousands of dollars each,
Yeah.
or if
He
not
said,
close to it.
we gave you all new tires.
Oh my gosh. When are we
mean,
gonna
that's-
are we gonna brand this trailer? Did we already
So
skin
we've
this
always
trailer?
wanted to, but to spend money on something like that
Is
not
is
money
a
towards
worth
There's a
bike.
company
is
that
worth
would do
of
the
money.
skins. You paint it and do the.
But I mean that's
one-
money that's not going towards bikes. It's not really necessary since it just sits kind of in
It's just
a
not
lot. So if
necessary.
someone wants to sponsor, to do that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Or a company
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
the skins
Yeah.
that would do it.
Right.
Let's
Just to
design
put the
it
going
first.
place. She's got a great logo. Going places.
Yeah, it
That
is.
would be really neat. Actually, the guy that passed away that got her the truck, he wanted to do
Yeah.
that. He said,
Yeah.
I'm going to make that up. I'm going to make some phone calls. I know all those guys. They'll do it. I know we can get it. And then he didn't survive
Well, that
that
happens.
year. But it'd be really awesome if some company that did
or
skins or
artists.
artists, artists wanted to.
Some
She's got the
tagging.
logo, and it'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
some artist's rendition of your logo and tagged on the trailer.
And
Anyways,
an in-kind donation. And
Yeah.
tax a write-off.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And then the bike giveaways I will share with you.
Yes.
So
it's got to be emotional.
I every time get worked up.
So
Well, yeah.
all these same, but sometimes different volunteers will come, offload these bikes, line them all up perfectly like a showroom, cover them with tarps, and the kids are clueless. They don't know. Even if somebody told them they're getting a bike, they don't remember. So they come out, and all these volunteers lined up for 50 yards, 100 yards. Everybody pulls the tarps off at the same time, and the kids are stunned. And it takes a while for them to even register. Nobody's ever given some of these children anything.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, they don't get a Christmas present, some of them.
Right.
And so you're going. The kiddies had to work it out with the teachers that afterwards, are you excited about the bike? What bike? That was your. That's my bike. Yes, you're going to go home with that bike. They can't process it. It's so beautiful, and I think she's changed some lives out of this.
I would say 5,000 bikes.
Almost. Yep.
But when you have nothing and been given nothing, if not the kids, the parents, some of them have been so.
Sure.
I mean, I'm reminded of the one note card you got from the one mom who had lost her job, single mom, was approaching. It was the fall. She had no idea what she was going to do. She couldn't afford even to pay her utility bills, let alone get her kids presents.
Yeah.
And now they get a brand new bike. And she wrote Katie the most beautiful, heartfelt letter thanking her because it saved her from that awful moment of my kids are not. I can't get them anything for Christmas. We may not even have lights that are on. And so as parents, obviously that's what we want to be around. I mean, who wouldn't want to live their life around that? And that's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, you got to be proud of her a little bit, huh? I mean, your daughter doing.
Oh yeah. But even if she weren't my daughter, I'd be proud.
Oh, okay.
And we're not sure whose daughter she really is. But that's another.
Jury's still out there.
That's right. Anyway, no.
70s is crazy time. 80s.
It's crazy time. But it's really something.
80s,
Early
not
80s.
70s. Excuse me.
I'm 78.
I'm an 83 baby. Don't
But
age me.
I'm gonna make that pitch to people. Forget my books and forget me. Go to Going Places website and.
Well, there's some cross marketing for sure. And has she made her character in a book ever? I mean, are we writing our family members in
well, there's
in
laws
stories?
against that in some states. I'm not sure I can do that. No, she's been a character. I've named characters after her in TV shows.
I bet.
I do like naming villains and stuff after friends of mine and stuff. They always,
okay. Your next book is going to have somebody named Mike in it. He's going to be a goof. This is a friend of ours, isn't it, Katie?
Yes, our friend Brittany Phillips.
On the cover of his book.
With our
Devious
friend who's also
Thinking.
the photographer, Alex Shee.
Shout out to those two.
That was really fun. Meeting them, and they were dating at the time, and she was his model for a lot of his portraiture and stuff, and that this came out of that conversation was really fun. And then
she's got an amazing look too. And then he's super
and then
talented.
He did my author photo as well, and a very talented photographer.
Well, there's talented people here in Charleston.
Sure.
And that's what we're doing here on the marketing podcast is we're digging up those talented folks.
Well, I will do a different plug. I'm on the board of directors at the Queen Street Theater.
Okay.
The Footlight Players at the Queen Street and in the French Quarter, and talk about talented people.
Yes.
The actors and singers and musicians in this town.
It's the oldest playhouse in the city.
Yeah, we're the oldest theater company in South Carolina. This is our 93rd season, and it's incredible. It's an old cotton warehouse.
Okay.
Footlight Players, Queen Street Theater.
Yeah, and it's
20
Queen Street. And anyway, I was asked to be on the board a few years ago, and it's really fun to be involved with them. But what cued me on that was the thing about the talented people.
Talented people.
Our team that runs the theater, Kyle and Brian, are talented guys. Kyle directs about half our shows, sometimes more. And the actors and the people that, I wasn't sure what kind of scene that might be when I
Well,
came
you're
to
coming
Charleston.
from
I've been in
LA.
You know, it's like, okay. And they said, you want to be part of this theater? And so I went and saw a show and thought about it, and I was very impressed with the people in the show. And it sounds biased and elitist, but you know, why would I have reason to think that there would be this level of acting talent and directing talent in Charleston?
Right.
You know, it wasn't even on my radar screen. You know, elitist radar screen in L.A. And holy crap! I mean, these people. I mean, there's more than one. There's dozens that would have very big careers in New York or Los Angeles if they wanted to go and do that like I did and you've experienced on your movie. And it's like, but they love living here. Some of them are from here. Some landed here during COVID. Some landed here because their real job brought them here. But the guy that starred in our last show is a physician at MUSC. And he's been in a whole bunch of our plays. He's a terrific actor.
That's so
Got
cool.
a great look. He could totally make a living as an actor if he wanted to.
Yes.
A leading man kind of guy. And he's a doctor. And a couple of scientists are part of it. And all their real lives, you know, somewhere they got the acting bug. Many of them have MFAs in theater from important schools. And they landed here and they get to act at the Queen Street Theater and also other theaters around town. There's so many talented people.
Yeah, the plays are great.
I need to go. I need to go to something for sure.
I'll get you tickets. Come see it.
Done. Easy.
They got great Christmas shows.
Yeah, we're doing
nice.
A Christmas Story based on the movie.
Okay.
We're doing that play coming up, and there's a couple of really good ones happening in the new year. So I'll get you some tickets.
Do you like opera?
Not particularly.
Not really.
Are you an opera guy?
No, but we've got this really cool Halo. It's called Holy City Arts and Lyric Opera.
Yeah.
Have you met the Dimitri and
No, but
Leah
I know
Edwards?
who they are. Yeah.
They're talented. They were on the show not too long ago. Leah was on the show.
Well, like I said, I love opera. No, I know who they are. I'm just not an opera
I would have
guy.
connected you guys if you loved opera because they're just a great group of people as well.
I know. I certainly heard of them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, and we've had spoken artists of poetry on the show, so we're really wanting to just kind of showcase how many cool people there are here, and we did it today with you, Tom. Thank you for being on the show.
That's
for
very
sure.
kind of you to say.
Yeah,
and it just shows that you've used up everybody in Charleston.
Not really.
Like, well, is there anybody left? Oh, how about this guy? Let's drag him out.
This might be our 24th episode, 25th episode. No, so there's so many more cool people. We're just now,
Thanks.
Getting underneath the surface of this cool
it's
city.
I appreciate the chance to just talk about this stuff because it was a big part of my life. The novels
I'm excited about the
now,
books.
for sure. But it's fun to talk about, in part because I know so many people. I mean, they watch TV. Everybody watches TV or Netflix or something, and how this all works and who's behind.
Yeah, it's not part of the average person's normal life. So
Right.
there's just so many. Everything's new information to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So-
and what were you saying?
No, it's just and so it's one reason I went into teaching it too. Is like I can share some of how it works, and maybe in the case of students, help them steer maybe in a more productive direction or avoid some of the mistakes that I made or I saw people make.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to fire people from shows for mistakes they made, and it's like, well, I can help you with that. Don't do these things, and you'll be in good shape.
Right.
And so it's very enjoyable, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Of course. No, thanks for sharing. And the books, The Devious Thinking and The Silent Partners, and a third one coming
Third
out.
one's called Poster Boys. It's about writers. It's about guys like me,
Of course, why not?
the writers of your favorite TV shows,
Yes.
and how twisted and eccentric.
Oh man,
and
are you writing something right now? Are you got
That's-
something noodling right now in the back of your
You
head,
mean
like
after Poster,
literally
he's
right now?
finishing at Poster Boys, but
Actually, I'm finishing Poster Boys, but I already know what the next one's going to be.
After that.
I'm trying not to think about it because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
I find myself, making notes,
Sure.
and file it away under useless information till later. But right now, Poster Boys is all encompassing.
So cool.
And it's my land. Do you ever see Get Shorty or read the book?
Yeah.
Okay, John Travolta and Gene
Uh-huh.
Hackman. So that book is in that general
Cool.
type. It's a inside twisted, spoof of Hollywood
All right.
and all the kind of semi-insane people like me that work there and populate these TV shows that I worked on. And these are all friends of mine and me, all kind of composited
I
together.
can only imagine some great stories in there.
And it's been fun traveling down that road
Memory lane.
because and also kind of self-therapy, like, how sick are you? What is wrong with you? Like sitting around trying to come up with ways to murder people and get away with it. That's just not normal, and I get it. I
that's
completely understand it, but it's necessary.
It's good to be not normal, right?
If you're going to do that for a living, you better not be normal because you got to come up with, you imagine the guys on Law and Order, SVU, the world they have to occupy for that horrible victims unit thing.
Dick Wolf.
I mean, and all those writers and actors, they live the most horrible world, occupy it every day.
Because that's what they're thinking
But that's
about.
what you have to do. You have to go there.
What an amazing world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us dive in just a little bit, because there could be another hour conversation about why shows don't run and all this, that, and the other. We'll have to do that.
Anytime you want to talk about that, you want to do a pure marketing promo kind of conversation, there's a lot of that.
I'll take you up on that.
You bet.
Take you up on that. Katie, where can we find Going Places?
You can go to goingplacesnonprofit.org. The best and for the most recent information is our social media, Instagram and Facebook.
And then we've got Tom. What's your .com again?
TomBlomquist.com.
BLOMQUIST.
Yep. And that all the stuff about me and about these books and stuff is there and
so cool. Well, that's
thanks.
great. And you're based out of Charleston. You're here in Mount Pleasant.
Yep.
And you're still working your tush off. You're behind off writing. You got a list of accolades, for crying out loud. The A-Team, my favorite, of course.
She's talking about fools.
My mom dressed me up as Mr. T one time.
Oh,
and
that's great.
Oh yeah, I was like 7
hilarious.
years old, mohawk face. I'm like, I don't know if this is. I don't think I should.
These days.
It was circa 80s.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
That's funny.
thanks again, Tom. Katie, good work.
Thanks.
Matt, thank you. Before we leave, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Charleston Radio Group, Jerry Feels Good, and of course the American Marketing Association. If you wanted to be a sponsor or a guest on the show, reach out to podcast@charlestonama.org, and we'll get back to you. Thanks again, Tom,
Thanks.
Katie, Charleston. We'll talk to you next time.